My name is Hazel Crawford, and I'm 26 years old. Standing in my childhood kitchen, I watched my mother flip through wedding magazines while casually discussing $20,000 venue prices like we were planning a grocery trip. The same parents who told me to figure it out yourself when I begged for college help 8 years ago were now expecting me to bankroll my sister's fairy tale wedding. My father looked up from his coffee and smiled that familiar manipulative grin I knew too well. "Don't worry, sweetheart," he said, patting my shoulder. "We already promised them the venue deposit. Before we dive into this family drama that'll make your blood boil, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. If you're ready to hear how entitled parents can destroy family relationships, smash that like button and subscribe for more shocking family stories. Trust me, you won't believe how far my family was willing to go to get their hands on my hard-earned money. 8 years ago, my entire world crumbled in the span of a single conversation. I was 18, holding my acceptance letter to Northwestern University with trembling hands, dreaming of becoming a doctor and making my family proud. The letter represented everything I'd worked for through high school, maintaining a 4.0 GPA while volunteering at the local hospital and leading student government. When I burst through the front door shouting about my acceptance, my parents Robert and Linda Crawford initially celebrated, hugging me and talking about how proud they were of their brilliant daughter. That celebration lasted exactly 48 hours before they sat me down for what they called a realistic conversation about college finances. My father cleared his throat and explained that while they were thrilled about my acceptance, they simply couldn't provide any financial support for my education. "College is expensive, Hazel," my mother said, avoiding eye contact while folding laundry. "We've looked at our budget, and there's just no room for tuition, room and board, or any of those extras." They suggested I consider community college for 2 years before transferring, or perhaps take a gap year to work and save money for my education. What made this conversation particularly devastating wasn't just the financial abandonment, but the timing. 3 weeks later, I discovered my parents had been secretly funding my younger sister Amber's elite private school education at Sacred Heart Academy, where tuition alone cost $15,000 annually. That didn't include her competitive dance lessons at the prestigious Belmont studio, where she trained 6 days a week at $200 per session. Her competition fees, costumes, and travel expenses added another $8,000 yearly, bringing their total investment in Amber's pursuits to over $30,000 annually. The contrast became impossible to ignore during my senior year of high school. While I worked double shifts at Murphy's Diner on weekends to save money for college textbooks, Amber received a brand new Honda Civic for her 16th birthday. The car came with a giant red bow and a surprise party where my parents invited half the neighborhood to celebrate their baby girl's special day. When relatives asked about my college plans, my parents would smile and say, "Oh, Hazel's so independent and capable. She'll figure out a way to make her dreams happen." During one particularly painful family dinner, my Aunt Margaret asked why they weren't helping with my college expenses when they clearly had money for Amber's activities and new car. My father's response cut deeper than any physical wound could have. "Amber has special talents that require investment during her prime development years," he explained matter-of-factly. "Dance and performing arts careers have small windows of opportunity. Hazel, on the other hand, is naturally intelligent and academically gifted. She has the capability to earn scholarships and make it on her own merit." My mother nodded enthusiastically, adding her own twisted logic to justify their discriminatory treatment. "We've always taught our girls to be self-sufficient," she said, serving Amber an extra helping of dessert. "Hazel's stronger and more independent than most kids her age. She doesn't need us holding her hand through every challenge." The irony wasn't lost on me that they considered paying for education holding my hand while funding Amber's dance career was somehow different. The emotional betrayal reached its peak when I accidentally discovered my parents maintained separate college savings accounts for both their daughters. While snooping through financial documents for FAFSA paperwork, I found statements showing they'd accumulated over $60,000 specifically designated for higher education expenses. When I confronted them about these accounts, they claimed the money was being saved for other family priorities and emergency situations that might arise in the future. My father actually had the audacity to suggest that using their savings for my education would be fiscally irresponsible because they needed to maintain financial security for retirement and unexpected expenses. Meanwhile, they continued spending lavishly on Amber's extracurricular activities and social events, never questioning whether those expenses might impact their precious financial security. The message became crystal clear: my education wasn't considered a worthwhile family investment, but my sister's hobbies deserved unlimited financial support. Northwestern University became both my salvation and my personal hell for the next 4 years. While my classmates enjoyed typical college experiences like spring break trips, fraternity parties, and lazy Sunday brunches, I lived in a constant state of exhaustion from juggling 3 jobs while maintaining my pre-med course load. My days began at 5 in the morning when I cleaned office buildings downtown, scrubbing toilets and emptying trash cans before most people started their coffee. The work was humbling and backbreaking, but it paid $12 an hour and allowed me to fit shifts around my class schedule. Afternoons were dedicated to tutoring struggling freshman students in chemistry and biology, charging $25 per hour for sessions in the library or student center. These appointments required incredible patience because many of my tutoring clients were wealthy kids whose parents paid for everything except academic motivation. I watched them complain about organic chemistry being too hard while wearing designer clothes that cost more than my monthly food budget. The irony wasn't lost on me that I was teaching students who had every advantage except the work ethic and determination my parents claimed made me so naturally gifted. Weekend shifts at Elegant Events Catering Company provided my most lucrative income, but also the most emotionally challenging work environment. Serving appetizers and champagne at luxury weddings and corporate parties, I witnessed the lifestyle my family claimed they couldn't afford while they simultaneously funded Amber's increasingly expensive pursuits. During one particularly painful evening, I served hors d'oeuvres at a debutante ball where the flower arrangements alone cost more than my semester's textbooks. The wealthy families at these events casually discussed their children's college experiences, mentioning summer programs in Europe and unpaid internships they could afford because their parents covered living expenses. My sister's social media presence became a constant reminder of the different standards my parents applied to their daughters. While I posted pictures of library study sessions and dining hall meals, Amber's Instagram featured shopping sprees at Nordstrom, family vacations to Colorado ski resorts, and weekend trips to Chicago for Broadway shows. Her posts accumulated hundreds of likes and comments from friends praising her amazing life and gorgeous outfits, while my rare posts about academic achievements barely received acknowledgement from our own parents. The breaking point came during my sophomore year when my laptop died during finals week. The ancient Dell I'd purchased used for $300 finally gave up, leaving me without access to research databases, online assignments, or basic word processing capabilities. When I called my parents in tears, explaining that I needed to borrow money for a replacement laptop that I promised to pay back with interest, they claimed they were strapped for cash and suggested I use library computers for the remainder of the semester. 2 weeks later, Amber posted photos from her spring break trip to Cancun with 6 of her Sacred Heart classmates. The pictures showed her lounging on private beach chairs, dining at upscale restaurants, and shopping at luxury resort boutiques. When I called to congratulate her on the vacation, she gushed about how our parents surprised her with the trip as a reward for maintaining her B average while participating in dance competitions. The estimated cost of her week-long vacation exceeded what I needed for a reliable laptop by at least $1,500. My junior year brought an emergency dental situation that highlighted my family's selective financial support even more starkly. During a weekend catering shift, I slipped on a wet kitchen floor and hit my face against a stainless steel counter, chipping my front tooth and requiring immediate dental work. Without dental insurance and facing a $2,500 bill for emergency treatment and crown placement, I once again approached my parents for a loan with a detailed repayment plan. My father listened to my situation with apparent concern, asking about payment options and expressing sympathy for my painful accident. However, when I formally requested financial assistance, he explained they were going through a particularly tight financial period and couldn't take on additional debt obligations. "We'd love to help, sweetheart," my mother added during our phone conversation, "but we've got Amber's nationals competition coming up, and those expenses have to be our priority right now." That same weekend, while I was researching dental schools that offered discounted treatment from students, my parents posted Facebook photos from Amber's graduation celebration dinner at Morton's Steakhouse. The family celebration included extended relatives, expensive wine, and multiple courses that easily cost more per person than my outstanding dental bill. My parents tagged the post with captions about celebrating our baby girl's incredible achievements and proud parents investing in our daughter's bright future. The final insult came during my senior year when my parents visited Northwestern exactly once in 4 years. Their visit wasn't planned to see my campus, attend a family weekend, or celebrate my approaching graduation. Instead, they came to meet Amber's new boyfriend Derek, who attended Northwestern on a full scholarship funded entirely by his wealthy family's foundation. During their brief campus visit, they spent more time photographing Derek's dormitory and asking about his family's restaurant business than they did learning about my academic achievements or future medical school plans. That evening, while having dinner at an expensive restaurant Derek's family recommended, my parents marveled at how wonderful it must be to have family financial support during college. They praised Derek's parents for their wise investment in their son's education and mentioned how lucky some students were to have families that prioritized academic success. The conversation continued for 30 minutes without anyone acknowledging that they'd made a deliberate choice not to provide similar support for their own daughter's education. Graduating from Northwestern with a biology degree and crushing student debt felt like winning a marathon while carrying a refrigerator on my back. My diploma represented $70,000 in federal loans, $15,000 in private loans, and 4 years of sacrificing every normal college experience to work multiple jobs. While my classmates celebrated at graduation parties funded by proud parents, I calculated monthly loan payments and researched entry-level positions that could support my aggressive debt repayment strategy. Landing a position at Meridian Strategic Consulting felt like my first real victory against the financial obstacles my family had created. The firm specialized in healthcare analytics for pharmaceutical companies, combining my scientific background with business strategy in ways that excited and challenged me intellectually. My starting salary of $58,000 represented more money than I'd ever imagined having, but after taxes, loan payments, and basic living expenses, my actual financial freedom remained limited. My parents' reaction to my job offer revealed their continued disconnection from my struggles and achievements. When I called to share the news about Meridian, my father responded with lukewarm congratulations followed by questions about whether consulting was really using my expensive education properly. My mother wondered aloud whether I should have considered more practical careers like teaching or nursing that didn't require such competitive work environments. Neither parent acknowledged the irony that their lack of financial support had directly led to my debt burden and career pressures. Meanwhile, Amber's post-graduation plans received enthusiastic family support and financial backing. After completing her degree in communications from a state university where she maintained a C+ average, she announced her intention to find herself through a year-long creative exploration in Los Angeles. My parents immediately offered to subsidize her California adventure, covering rent for a studio apartment in West Hollywood, monthly living expenses, and enrollment in acting classes at a prestigious theater conservatory. The contrast in family treatment became even more apparent during my first year at Meridian when I worked 70-hour weeks to prove myself worthy of advancement opportunities. While I spent weekends analyzing pharmaceutical market trends and preparing client presentations, Amber posted Instagram stories about yoga classes, beach meditation sessions, and networking events at trendy Los Angeles clubs. Her carefree lifestyle was entirely funded by our parents, who justified the expense as supporting her artistic development during a crucial life transition period. My first significant professional achievement came 18 months into my Meridian career when I identified a market inefficiency that saved a major client $12 million in regulatory compliance costs. The analysis required 6 months of intensive research, dozens of late nights reviewing FDA documentation, and presentations to executive committees who initially questioned my recommendations. When my strategy proved successful, I received a promotion to senior analyst with a salary increase to $72,000. Sharing this career milestone with my family produced predictably disappointing results. My parents listened politely to my explanation of the pharmaceutical analysis project but seemed more interested in discussing Amber's latest acting class showcase than celebrating my professional accomplishments. "That's nice, dear," my mother said when I finished describing my promotion. "Amber just booked her first commercial audition, and we're so excited about her progress in the entertainment industry." The financial dynamics within our family became increasingly obvious during holiday gatherings when relatives asked about both daughters' lives and careers. My parents would briefly mention my boring consulting work before launching into elaborate descriptions of Amber's creative pursuits, acting classes, and potential entertainment industry connections. When my aunt asked about my student loans and financial independence, my father actually said, "Oh, Hazel's always been good with money. She'll figure out a way to make everything work." Their casual dismissal of my financial struggles while simultaneously funding Amber's Los Angeles lifestyle created a cognitive dissonance that was becoming harder to ignore. During one particularly frustrating family dinner, my mother mentioned that Amber needed additional money for professional headshots and portfolio development, suggesting it was a necessary investment in her future career. When I pointed out that I was still paying off loans from my own career preparation, my father responded that my debt was the result of choosing an expensive school rather than considering more affordable alternatives. The gaslighting reached new levels when my parents began making subtle requests for small loans, claiming temporary cash flow issues while maintaining their lifestyle and continuing to support Amber's California expenses. During a phone conversation about Christmas gift plans, my mother casually mentioned they were a little short this month and wondered if I could lend them $500 to cover Amber's acting class tuition. When I expressed confusion about their financial difficulties while they continued supporting my sister's expensive lifestyle, they claimed I was being overly analytical about family financial matters. My second promotion at Meridian came with a salary increase to $85,000 and recognition as one of the firm's top performers in healthcare consulting. The achievement represented 3 years of intensive work, continuing education in pharmaceutical regulations, and building relationships with major industry clients. My success was entirely self-funded and self-motivated, requiring personal sacrifices and financial discipline that my parents had never encouraged or supported. When I purchased my first condominium at 24, choosing a modest 2-bedroom unit in a decent neighborhood that I could afford while maintaining aggressive loan payments, my parents' response was characteristically dismissive and slightly critical. Instead of celebrating my achievement of homeownership despite their lack of support, they suggested I was getting too big for my britches and should remember where I came from. The implication that success was somehow making me arrogant revealed their deep discomfort with my financial independence. Amber's engagement announcement arrived like a perfectly orchestrated family ambush designed to maximize emotional manipulation and financial pressure. She returned from Los Angeles with Derek Hamilton, her boyfriend of 2 years whose family owned a successful chain of upscale Italian restaurants throughout the Midwest. The announcement came during what my parents described as a casual family dinner, but which I later realized was a carefully planned intervention to establish immediate wedding funding expectations. Derek seemed genuinely nice, albeit completely unaware of our family's financial dynamics and dysfunction. During dinner, he spoke enthusiastically about his family's restaurant business, their commitment to supporting young couples starting their lives together, and his excitement about joining our family through marriage. His innocent comments about family values and supporting each other's dreams created the perfect setup for my parents' manipulation strategy. The engagement ring itself was stunning, a 2-carat diamond solitaire that Derek proudly explained he'd purchased with savings from working at his family's restaurants since high school. His obvious love for Amber was genuine and sweet, making me happy for my sister while simultaneously dreading whatever financial schemes my parents were already developing behind their congratulatory smiles. Within hours of the engagement announcement, my mother transformed into a wedding planning tornado, pulling out magazines, making vendor phone calls, and discussing venue options as if she'd been preparing for this moment her entire life. Her enthusiasm was infectious and overwhelming, involving extended family members, family friends, and even neighbors in the excitement of planning Amber's dream wedding celebration. The first financial reality check came during dessert when my father casually mentioned that Derek's family was so wonderful about wanting to contribute significantly to the wedding expenses. He explained that the Hamilton family believed in supporting young couples through generous wedding gifts and celebration funding, creating what he called a beautiful tradition of family investment in new marriages. My mother nodded enthusiastically while serving coffee, adding that the Hamilton family's generosity inspired them to think about how our family could match their commitment to making this wedding absolutely perfect for the young couple. She mentioned specific details about venue options, guest list sizes, and celebration styles that were clearly far beyond anything my parents had ever afforded for family events in the past. The conversation took a more pointed direction when Derek mentioned his family's excitement about planning an engagement party for 60 guests at one of their restaurant's private dining rooms. My father responded by suggesting our family should reciprocate with an equally impressive celebration, perhaps at the country club where several family friends had hosted memorable events. The casual mention of country club venues sent immediate warning signals through my mind, knowing my parents had never belonged to such establishments or budgeted for such expenses. During the drive home from dinner, I called my best friend Madison to process the evening's events and express my growing concerns about my parents' unrealistic wedding expectations. Madison, who worked as a financial advisor and understood family financial dynamics, immediately recognized the manipulation tactics my parents were employing. "They're setting up a financial trap," she warned. "All this talk about matching the other family's contributions is designed to pressure you into funding whatever they can't afford." Her analysis proved accurate within weeks as my parents' wedding planning enthusiasm escalated into increasingly expensive territory. The guest list grew from what Derek initially described as a small family celebration to nearly 300 people, including distant relatives, family friends, business associates, and extended social connections from both families. Each addition to the guest list required corresponding increases in venue size, catering costs, and overall celebration expenses. The venue selection process revealed the extent of my parents' financial delusions and manipulation strategy. Instead of researching affordable options within their actual budget, they toured luxury country clubs, historic mansions, and upscale hotel ballrooms that charged premium prices for weekend wedding celebrations. During these venue visits, they would take pictures, collect pricing information, and discuss logistics as if cost was no object. My first direct involvement in wedding financial discussions came during a family meeting my parents called to discuss exciting venue options they'd discovered during their research. They presented detailed information about Willowbrook Country Club, an exclusive establishment where membership alone cost $15,000 annually. The wedding package they preferred included ceremony space, reception hall, premium catering menu, and exclusive vendor partnerships for photography, flowers, and entertainment. The total cost for their preferred Willowbrook package exceeded $40,000, not including additional expenses like wedding dress, photography, flowers, music, transportation, and rehearsal dinner costs. When I asked how they planned to afford such an expensive celebration, my father smiled confidently and explained that wedding expenses were family investments that required everyone working together to make dreams come true. My mother added emotional manipulation to the financial pressure, describing how proud she felt imagining Amber's wedding at such a prestigious venue. "Derek's family will be so impressed with our commitment to celebrating the children appropriately," she explained. "This is our opportunity to show that we value family traditions and want to give Amber the beautiful wedding she's always dreamed about." The manipulation reached peak intensity when my father casually mentioned that the venue required a $10,000 deposit to secure their preferred date, looking directly at me while explaining how wonderful it would feel to have family members contribute to making such special moments possible. The expectation was clear. They wanted me to write the deposit check immediately, treating my hard-earned savings as their personal wedding fund. When I didn't immediately offer to pay the venue deposit, my parents exchanged meaningful glances and shifted their manipulation strategy toward guilt and emotional blackmail. My mother mentioned how successful I'd become and how proud they were of my financial stability, suggesting that my achievements created opportunities to support family celebrations. My father added that contributing to Amber's wedding would demonstrate sisterly love and family loyalty that would be remembered and appreciated for generations. What began as a $10,000 venue deposit request rapidly evolved into an elaborate financial scheme designed to extract maximum money from my savings while making me feel selfish for any hesitation. Within 2 weeks of the initial deposit conversation, my parents presented me with a comprehensive wedding budget breakdown that assigned specific expenses to different family members, with the largest financial obligations strategically allocated to me. Their detailed spreadsheet included categories like venue costs, catering, photography, flowers, music, transportation, and wedding attire, with my suggested contributions totaling nearly $25,000. The document was professionally formatted with color coding and detailed explanations for each expense category, making their financial demands appear legitimate and well-researched rather than manipulative and exploitative. My mother scheduled individual meetings with me to discuss each budget category in exhaustive detail, explaining how my generous contributions would make specific elements of the wedding possible. During our venue discussion, she described how Willowbrook Country Club represented the perfect setting for Amber's dream celebration, with beautiful gardens for ceremony photos, elegant ballrooms for reception dancing, and prestigious social connections that would benefit Derek's business relationships. The emotional manipulation tactics escalated when I expressed concerns about the total expense amounts and questioned whether such an elaborate wedding was financially responsible for our family. My parents responded with hurt expressions and suggestions that my reluctance revealed selfish attitudes about family celebrations. "We never imagined you'd be unwilling to help your only sister have a beautiful wedding," my father said with practiced disappointment in his voice. My mother employed different manipulation strategies, focusing on guilt about my past relationships and family connections. "Amber has always looked up to you as her big sister," she explained during one particularly manipulative conversation. "She's told everyone how excited she is about having your support for the most important day of her life. Can you imagine how devastated she'll be if her successful sister can't find it in her heart to help make her dreams come true?" The family pressure intensified exponentially when extended relatives became involved in wedding planning discussions and financial expectations. During a Sunday dinner with my Aunt Margaret and Uncle Frank, my parents strategically steered conversation toward my career success and financial stability. They praised my consulting achievements, mentioned my recent condo purchase, and described how blessed they felt to have such a successful daughter who could help make family celebrations memorable. Uncle Frank, who owned a small construction business and understood family financial obligations, specifically asked about my role in wedding planning and whether I was excited about contributing to Amber's special day. The question was clearly planted by my parents to create social pressure and public accountability for my financial participation. When I gave non-committal responses about still reviewing wedding budgets, my aunt suggested that successful family members had special opportunities to demonstrate love through generous support. The manipulation reached new heights when my parents began comparing my situation to Derek's family dynamics and financial contributions. They repeatedly mentioned how Derek's parents and siblings were so enthusiastic about wedding expenses and couldn't wait to demonstrate their love through financial generosity. These comparisons were designed to make me feel inadequate and selfish compared to the Hamilton family's supposed willingness to fund elaborate celebrations. My father employed increasingly sophisticated guilt tactics, suggesting that my student loan payments represented choices I'd made about my education financing, while contributing to Amber's wedding represented opportunities to show family came first in my value system. "Those loans were investments in your career success," he explained during one family meeting. "Now you have the chance to invest in family happiness and relationships that will last a lifetime." The financial manipulation became even more aggressive when my parents began making commitments to vendors and relatives using my name and financial capacity without my consent. During a phone call with my grandmother, I discovered my parents had told her I was so excited to fund the wedding photography package and couldn't wait to give Amber such a meaningful gift. Similar conversations revealed they'd made promises to florists, musicians, and catering coordinators about my financial contributions to various wedding elements. When I confronted my parents about using my name in financial discussions without my permission, they became defensive and aggressive, accusing me of embarrassing the family by going back on commitments they'd made in good faith. "We never thought you'd make us look foolish in front of vendors and relatives," my mother said with tears in her eyes. "Everyone knows how successful you've become, and they expect you to act like a loving family member." The emotional warfare intensified when my parents threatened to cancel wedding plans entirely if I didn't commit to their financial expectations. My father suggested that disappointing Amber would damage our sister relationship permanently, while my mother claimed that explaining my refusal to extended family would be humiliating and heartbreaking. They painted my financial reluctance as personal rejection of Amber's happiness rather than reasonable concern about manipulation and exploitation. The manipulation reached peak toxicity when my parents began comparing my response to Derek's family's enthusiasm about wedding contributions. They described detailed conversations with Derek's parents about shared celebration costs, elegant venue selections, and family traditions around supporting new marriages. These descriptions were clearly designed to make me feel ashamed about my selfish attitude compared to the Hamilton family's supposed generosity and family-first values. My mother's final manipulation attempt involved health concerns and stress-related medical issues that she attributed to wedding planning difficulties and family financial tensions. She mentioned chest pains during vendor meetings, sleep problems related to wedding anxiety, and doctor's appointments to address stress symptoms caused by uncertainty about celebration funding. The implication was clear. My refusal to fund wedding expenses was literally making my mother sick with worry and disappointment. My emotional breaking point came during a tearful phone call with Madison, who listened patiently as I described the escalating financial manipulation and family pressure surrounding Amber's wedding. Her response was immediate and decisive. "Hazel, this isn't normal family dynamics. This is financial abuse, and you need professional perspective on how to protect yourself from their exploitation tactics." Madison scheduled an emergency meeting at her financial planning office, where she helped me analyze my parents' demands within the context of healthy family financial boundaries. Her professional assessment confirmed what I'd been feeling but couldn't articulate. My parents were engaging in systematic financial manipulation designed to exploit my success while avoiding responsibility for their own spending decisions. During our 2-hour consultation, Madison helped me calculate the true cost of my parents' wedding expectations relative to my income, debt obligations, and long-term financial goals. The $25,000 they wanted me to contribute represented nearly 40% of my annual take-home pay after taxes and loan payments. No reasonable family would expect a young person to sacrifice their financial security for someone else's wedding, Madison explained firmly. Her analysis revealed additional concerning patterns in my family's financial treatment over the years, including their refusal to support my education while funding Amber's expensive activities, their dismissal of my achievements while celebrating my sister's minimal accomplishments, and their current expectation that my success should benefit everyone except me. "This is textbook financial abuse," Madison said. "They've systematically undermined your financial independence while positioning themselves to exploit your achievements." Madison's most valuable insight involved introducing me to Claire Hamilton, Derek's older sister, who worked as a marketing director for the family restaurant chain. Claire had been quietly observing the wedding planning process with growing concern about my parents' financial assumptions and increasingly elaborate celebration expectations. Her perspective from the other family's viewpoint provided crucial information about the true dynamics behind wedding funding discussions. During our first meeting at a coffee shop near Claire's office, she revealed that Derek's family was equally uncomfortable with my parents' presumptions about shared wedding expenses and elaborate venue selections. "Derek's parents are generous people who want to support the young couple," Claire explained, "but they're also practical business owners who budget carefully for major expenses. Your parents seem to assume we're made of money and willing to fund whatever they dream up." Claire's revelations about the Hamilton family's actual financial commitments were eye-opening and infuriating. While my parents had been describing Derek's family as enthusiastically supporting unlimited wedding expenses, the truth was that Derek's parents had budgeted $8,000 for wedding contributions and were concerned about my parents' escalating demands. "They've never encountered a family that expected other people to fund their celebrations," Claire said diplomatically. More disturbing was Claire's information about conversations between our parents regarding financial planning and expense sharing. My parents had been making assumptions about the Hamilton family's willingness to split major costs while simultaneously promising vendors and relatives that I would cover substantial portions of wedding expenses. "It's like they're spending everyone else's money without actually asking anyone's permission," Claire observed. The alliance between Madison, Claire, and me created opportunities for strategic information gathering about my parents' actual financial situation and manipulation tactics. Claire agreed to monitor conversations between our parents about wedding planning and expense expectations, while Madison helped me research legal protections against financial manipulation and identity theft. Together, we began documenting every instance of my parents using my name or financial capacity in discussions with vendors or relatives. Our investigation revealed that my parents had been systematically exaggerating both Derek's family's financial contributions and my willingness to fund wedding expenses, creating a house of cards that would collapse once people started asking for actual payment commitments. They'd been operating under the assumption that social pressure and family guilt would force everyone to honor financial promises they'd made without consultation or consent. The first confrontation came when I demanded my parents stop using my name in any financial discussions related to wedding planning without my explicit written approval. Their response was immediate defensiveness followed by accusations that I was being unnecessarily difficult and embarrassing the family with legal-sounding requirements for simple family conversations. "We never thought we needed permission to tell people how proud we are of your success," my father protested. When I insisted on seeing actual documentation of financial commitments they'd made using my name, my parents became evasive and hostile, claiming I was treating family relationships like business transactions rather than trusting family members to act in everyone's best interests. Their refusal to provide specific information about vendor conversations and relative expectations confirmed my suspicions about the extent of their manipulation and deception. Claire provided crucial support during this confrontation phase by sharing her family's growing concerns about wedding planning dynamics and financial expectations. "Derek's parents want to meet with your parents to discuss realistic budget parameters," she informed me. "They're uncomfortable with the escalating expenses and want to establish clear boundaries about what each family can actually afford." This meeting would force my parents to acknowledge their actual financial limitations rather than continuing to make promises they expected others to fulfill. Madison helped me prepare for the inevitable family confrontation by role-playing responses to guilt tactics, emotional manipulation, and threats of family relationship consequences. "Remember," she coached me, "their anger and disappointment are not your responsibility. You didn't create this situation by succeeding professionally or refusing to be exploited financially. They created this situation by making promises with other people's money." The strategic alliance between Madison, Claire, and me also provided emotional support during the difficult process of establishing boundaries with manipulative family members. Both women validated my feelings about the unfair treatment I'd received over the years and confirmed that my parents' expectations were unreasonable and exploitative. "You don't owe anyone your financial security in exchange for family acceptance," Madison reminded me repeatedly. The family confrontation I'd been dreading arrived in the form of Amber's engagement party, which my parents had secretly planned as a public intervention to force my financial compliance through social pressure and family expectations. The event was scheduled at our childhood home with 60 guests, including extended family, family friends, neighbors, and several members of Derek's family who'd driven in from neighboring states. My parents had clearly orchestrated the guest list to include people whose opinions they believed would influence my decision-making, particularly older relatives who held traditional views about family financial obligations and younger family members who might pressure me through peer dynamics. The party invitation mentioned celebrating Amber and Derek's engagement with family announcements, which should have warned me about their manipulation intentions. The first sign of trouble came during pre-party preparations when my mother asked me to stay after other guests arrived because they wanted to make special announcements about wedding planning progress and family contributions to the celebration. Her request felt ominous, but I assumed they planned to announce venue selections or wedding dates rather than orchestrating public financial manipulation. 30 minutes into the engagement party, after guests had enjoyed appetizers and drinks while celebrating the young couple's happiness, my father called for everyone's attention to make what he described as wonderful announcements about family support for this special celebration. His tone was warm and proud, creating the perfect atmosphere for maximum emotional manipulation. Linda and I are so grateful for the love and support everyone has shown Amber and Derek during this exciting time, my father began, smiling at the assembled guests. We're especially proud to announce that our successful daughter Hazel has graciously offered to contribute significantly to making this wedding celebration absolutely perfect for the young couple. The room erupted in applause and congratulations directed toward me, while I stood frozen in shock and horror. My mother added her own manipulation to the announcement, describing how blessed they felt to have such a generous daughter who understood the importance of family celebrations and supporting younger siblings during major life transitions. Hazel's success in her consulting career has created wonderful opportunities for her to invest in family happiness, she explained to the nodding, approving crowd. When I attempted to correct their misrepresentation by stating I hadn't made any financial commitments to wedding expenses, my parents looked wounded and confused, as if I was inexplicably denying previous conversations and agreements. "Sweetheart," my father said with perfectly practiced disappointment, "we discussed the venue deposit just last week, and you seemed so excited about helping make Amber's dreams come true." The manipulation escalated when Amber herself joined the conversation, expressing confusion and hurt about my apparent change of heart regarding financial support for her wedding. With tears in her eyes and trembling voice, she asked why I was suddenly unwilling to help with celebration costs when everyone had been so excited about family contributions. "I thought you wanted to be part of making my wedding beautiful," she said, creating maximum emotional drama. Several aunts and uncles approached me privately during the party to question my reluctance about supporting Amber's wedding, particularly when I'd been so blessed with career success and opportunities to give back to family. Uncle Frank specifically mentioned how proud he'd been to hear about my financial generosity and how disappointed he felt learning I might be reconsidering such important family commitments. My cousin Jennifer, who'd recently married and whose parents had contributed significantly to her wedding expenses, expressed confusion about my hesitation regarding family financial support. "My parents helped with my wedding costs because that's what families do," she explained. "When you're successful, you help other family members celebrate important moments." Her comments reflected exactly the social pressure my parents had intended to create. The emotional manipulation reached peak intensity when my mother claimed she was experiencing chest pains from the stress of family financial tensions and uncertainty about wedding planning progress. She mentioned scheduling doctor's appointments to address anxiety symptoms and sleep problems related to celebration funding concerns. Several relatives immediately suggested I should prioritize family harmony and my mother's health over financial concerns. Derek's family members who attended the engagement party witnessed the entire manipulation spectacle, observing my parents' public pressure tactics and my obvious discomfort with their financial demands. Claire later informed me that Derek's parents were shocked by the public nature of the financial discussion and concerned about the family dynamics they were observing. "They've never seen anything like your parents' approach to wedding funding," she reported. The party's aftermath created lasting damage to extended family relationships as relatives chose sides based on their interpretation of my financial obligations versus my parents' manipulation tactics. Several older family members contacted me after the party to express disappointment in my selfishness, while a few younger relatives privately acknowledged they found my parents' public pressure tactics uncomfortable and inappropriate. My grandmother called 3 days after the engagement party to express her confusion about the family financial conflict, mentioning that my parents had told her months earlier that I was excited about contributing to Amber's wedding expenses. When I explained that my parents had been making financial promises using my name without my consent, she seemed shocked but ultimately suggested I should work things out for the sake of family harmony. The family war escalated when my parents began contacting extended relatives to share their version of events, portraying themselves as disappointed parents whose successful daughter had unexpectedly abandoned family values and sibling loyalty. Their narrative focused on my sudden change of heart rather than their systematic financial manipulation and exploitation attempts. Derek himself finally approached me directly after witnessing several family confrontations about wedding expenses, expressing genuine confusion about the financial conflict and concern about its impact on his relationship with Amber. "I never wanted our wedding to create family problems," he said sincerely. "Maybe we should consider smaller celebration options that don't require so much financial stress for everyone." His perspective as an outsider to our family dysfunction provided valuable validation that my parents' expectations were unreasonable. The discovery that shattered any remaining illusions about my parents' moral boundaries came through a collection notice forwarded from my previous apartment address. Opening the envelope revealed credit card statements for accounts I'd never opened, all containing charges for wedding-related expenses including venue deposits, catering arrangements, flower orders, and photography services. My parents had committed identity theft, using my personal information and previous address to finance Amber's wedding while planning to make minimum payments from my assumed contributions. The evidence was overwhelming and damning: 3 credit cards totaling nearly $15,000 in debt, all opened using my social security number, previous address, and employment information they'd gathered from family conversations about my career success. The credit applications included forged signatures attempting to mimic my handwriting and false information about my income and housing expenses to increase available credit limits. Madison accompanied me to both the police station and her firm's legal department to file reports for identity theft and financial fraud. The attorney she consulted explained that my parents' actions constituted multiple felonies, including identity theft, credit fraud, and forgery, with potential prison sentences if prosecuted fully. "This isn't family financial disagreement," the lawyer emphasized. "This is serious criminal activity that could destroy their lives if you pursue maximum legal consequences." The investigation into their fraudulent activities revealed additional shocking information about my parents' actual financial situation. They'd refinanced their house twice in the past 3 years, increasing their mortgage from $40,000 to over $120,000 to fund Amber's Los Angeles lifestyle and expensive activities. Their monthly payments had tripled while their income remained static, creating unsustainable debt obligations they expected me to resolve through wedding contributions. Financial records obtained through legal discovery showed my parents had been systematically lying about their cash flow problems and temporary financial difficulties. Their monthly expenses exceeded their income by nearly $2,000, funded through credit card debt, home equity loans, and now identity theft targeting their own daughter. They'd created a financial house of cards that required my money to prevent immediate collapse. Claire provided crucial intelligence about conversations between our parents regarding financial planning and expense expectations. Derek's parents had informed my parents they could contribute $8,000 maximum to wedding expenses, far less than the unlimited funding my parents had been claiming. When confronted with this reality, my father had assured Derek's family that other arrangements would cover remaining costs, referring to his plans to extract money from me through guilt and manipulation. The most devastating revelation came when I discovered my parents had taken out a second mortgage on their house specifically to fund wedding expenses, with loan terms requiring balloon payments they couldn't afford unless I provided the financial rescue they'd been demanding. Their entire manipulation strategy was designed to prevent foreclosure on their home while maintaining the facade of successful parents supporting their daughter's dream wedding. Armed with comprehensive evidence of identity theft, financial fraud, and mortgage fraud, I consulted with Madison and her legal team about strategic options for protecting myself while potentially helping my parents avoid complete financial ruin. The situation required delicate balance between holding them accountable for criminal behavior and preventing them from losing their house and destroying their lives entirely. My strategic response began with freezing all credit reports and canceling the fraudulent accounts while disputing all charges with credit bureaus and card companies. The identity theft report provided legal protection against responsibility for their debts while creating official documentation of their criminal activity. This evidence would be crucial if they continued their manipulation tactics or attempted further financial fraud. The second phase of my strategy involved controlled information sharing with Derek's family about my parents' true financial situation and fraudulent activities. Claire arranged a private meeting where I shared documentation about the identity theft and credit fraud, ensuring Derek's family understood they were dealing with people willing to commit felonies to fund wedding expenses. Their shocked reaction confirmed they'd had no idea about the extent of my parents' financial desperation. Derek's parents immediately withdrew all financial commitments to wedding expenses upon learning about my parents' criminal activities, explaining they couldn't associate their family's reputation with people who committed fraud against their own children. They offered to support Derek and Amber with a smaller, more affordable celebration but refused to contribute to any plans involving my parents' financial management or manipulation. The final element of my strategic revenge involved confronting my parents with evidence of their criminal activities while offering them a choice between legal prosecution and complete cessation of financial manipulation. Madison arranged the meeting at her office with legal representation present, ensuring our conversation was documented and witnessed by neutral professionals. When presented with credit card statements, forged applications, and legal documentation of their identity theft, my parents initially denied knowledge of the accounts before gradually admitting to borrowing my information for temporary financial solutions they planned to resolve through wedding contributions. Their confession confirmed the premeditated nature of their fraud while revealing they'd planned to use my money to pay off debts they'd created using my credit. My ultimatum was simple and non-negotiable: complete repayment of fraudulent debts within 90 days, written apology letters to Derek's family acknowledging their deception, immediate cessation of all financial manipulation tactics, and formal commitment to never use my personal information for any financial purposes. Failure to comply would result in full legal prosecution for identity theft and fraud charges that could result in prison sentences and permanent criminal records. Their response revealed the depth of their entitlement and manipulation mindset. Instead of expressing remorse for committing felonies against their own daughter, they focused on justifying their actions as family emergency measures and expressing disappointment that I was threatening them with lawyers instead of helping resolve financial difficulties through generous wedding contributions. The confrontation with comprehensive evidence of their criminal activities forced my parents to acknowledge the unsustainable nature of their financial manipulation and fraud schemes. Faced with potential prosecution for identity theft, credit fraud, and forgery, they agreed to my terms for avoiding legal consequences while taking responsibility for their systematic exploitation attempts. The 90-day repayment deadline created urgency that required them to liquidate assets and dramatically reduce their lifestyle to resolve fraudulent debts. Their compliance with repayment terms required selling Amber's car, canceling her Los Angeles apartment lease, and liquidating jewelry and household items to generate cash for credit card payments. The forced financial reckoning revealed the extent of their unsustainable spending patterns while demonstrating the real-world consequences of using other people's money for lifestyle maintenance. My father took a second job delivering food on weekends, while my mother returned to retail work she'd quit years earlier when they began living beyond their means. The impact on Amber's wedding plans was dramatic but ultimately positive for her relationship with Derek and personal growth regarding financial responsibility. When Derek's parents withdrew their financial support upon learning about my parents' fraudulent activities, the young couple faced the choice between canceling their engagement or planning a modest celebration within their actual means. Derek's genuine love for Amber was proven when he enthusiastically supported a small ceremony and reception that honored their commitment without financial manipulation or family drama. The scaled-down wedding took place at Derek's family restaurant with 40 guests, homemade decorations created by friends and relatives, and a potluck-style reception that cost less than $2,000 total. The celebration was intimate, authentic, and focused on the couple's happiness rather than social status or family financial competition. Amber later admitted the smaller wedding was more meaningful than the elaborate celebration my parents had planned using other people's money. My relationship with Amber began healing when she recognized our parents' manipulation tactics and financial abuse patterns that had affected both our lives in different ways. During a private conversation 2 months after the wedding, she acknowledged that my parents had systematically favored her while undermining my achievements, creating artificial competition between sisters who should have supported each other. "I never realized how unfairly they treated you," she said with genuine remorse. "I was so focused on receiving their support that I didn't see how they were using me to manipulate you." The establishment of firm financial boundaries with my parents required ongoing vigilance and consistent enforcement of consequences when they tested those limits. They attempted subtle manipulation tactics like mentioning temporary financial difficulties during family gatherings, suggesting investment opportunities that could benefit everyone, and making emotional appeals about supporting family members during challenging times. Each attempt was met with calm refusal and reminders about the legal consequences of future fraud attempts. My credit reports required 18 months of monitoring and dispute resolution to completely remove traces of their identity theft and restore my financial reputation. The experience taught me crucial lessons about protecting personal information from family members and the importance of regular credit monitoring to detect fraudulent activities. I implemented security measures including credit freezes, fraud alerts, and separate banking institutions unknown to family members who'd proven willing to exploit personal financial information. The emotional healing process required professional counseling to address years of financial abuse, emotional manipulation, and systematic undermining of my achievements and self-worth. Working with a therapist who specialized in family financial abuse helped me understand that my parents' behavior represented pathological patterns rather than normal family dynamics or temporary financial stress. The counseling provided tools for maintaining healthy boundaries while processing grief about losing the loving, supportive family I'd hoped to have. Derek became an unexpected ally in family healing as someone who'd observed our dysfunction from an outside perspective and could validate my experiences without family loyalty conflicts. His business background helped him recognize the sophisticated nature of my parents' manipulation tactics, while his genuine concern for family relationships motivated him to encourage healthier communication patterns during family gatherings. The long-term impact on family relationships required accepting that my parents might never acknowledge the extent of their financial abuse or take responsibility for the pain they'd caused through systematic exploitation and manipulation. However, establishing and maintaining firm boundaries created space for authentic relationships with family members willing to treat me with respect and honesty. Extended family members who'd initially criticized my financial boundaries later admitted they'd been manipulated by my parents' version of events. My professional success continued accelerating once I was freed from financial manipulation and constant family financial obligations. Without the stress of defending my earnings from exploitation, I was promoted to principal consultant at Meridian and began building investment portfolios that would provide long-term financial security. The money I'd protected from wedding manipulation was invested in retirement accounts and emergency savings that created genuine financial independence. The most important lesson from this experience involved learning to value myself enough to refuse financial abuse while maintaining family relationships on healthy terms. Love doesn't require financial sacrifice that compromises personal security or enables destructive behavior patterns. True family support flows reciprocally and cannot be demanded through guilt, manipulation, or emotional blackmail. Setting financial boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential for maintaining relationships based on mutual respect rather than exploitation. 3 years after the wedding crisis, my relationship with my parents has stabilized around clear expectations and consistent boundaries. They've learned that manipulation tactics will be met with immediate consequences while respectful communication receives positive responses. We attend family gatherings, celebrate holidays together, and maintain superficial but pleasant interactions that don't involve financial discussions or guilt-based manipulation attempts. The experience ultimately strengthened my sense of self-worth and personal values while providing clarity about the difference between healthy family relationships and exploitative family dynamics. I learned that success creates opportunities for generosity, but never obligations for exploitation. Family members who truly love and support each other don't resort to identity theft, emotional manipulation, or public humiliation to extract money from relatives who've worked hard to achieve financial stability. My story serves as a warning about family financial abuse and the importance of protecting personal financial information even from close relatives who may feel entitled to exploit your success for their own purposes. It's also a testament to the power of establishing firm boundaries, seeking professional support when dealing with manipulation, and building authentic relationships with people who celebrate your achievements rather than attempting to exploit them for personal gain. Have you ever experienced family members who felt entitled to your hard-earned money? How would you handle parents who refused to support your education but expected you to fund your siblings' expensive celebrations? Share your thoughts in the comments below about family financial boundaries and whether you think I was too harsh with my parents or should have done more to protect myself from their manipulation. If this story resonated with your own experiences with family financial drama, please like this video and subscribe for more real-life stories about standing up to toxic family dynamics. Don't forget to share this video with anyone who might be dealing with similar family financial manipulation. Thank you for listening to my story. And remember that you have the right to protect your financial security from family members who mistake love for exploitation. Wishing you all the strength to maintain healthy boundaries with the people you love, even when those boundaries require difficult conversations and firm consequences.